Hey,
Hey
mamas.
mamas, welcome back to another episode, guys. I'm Jess,
I'm Erica.
and guys, today we have an interesting guest. It's not a woman, it's actually a guy that, funnily enough, everyone must know Mo the comedian. Anyways, he was doing quarantine games, and we were watching it, and this guy comes on, and all of a sudden Mo's like, "Hey, mate, there's fire going on in the comments." And anyways, everyone, and then at the end of the live, he literally put his finger up and he was like, "Sorry, ladies, I'm married." And honestly, all the girls in there were like, "Oh man," and Mo was just cracking up. Anyways, from that live, we started seeing a lot of your profile coming up in the explore page. I'm assuming it's because you started releasing all the videos of, you and your story.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember coming across one of them, and I thought, oh my God, I recognize this person. And this person, guys, his name is Carl. So Carl, nice to meet you. Welcome to Mama's Code.
Thanks for having me.
And for everyone listening, his videos were regarding drug abuse, and he has been sober for how many years?
Coming up 4 years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How many kids do you have for starters?
So I've got 2 kids. I've got a 12-year-old, Jaden, from a previous relationship, and I've got a little girl, Harper. She'll be 2 in June with my wife. So yeah, we have Jaden quite a lot, sort of every Wednesday, and then sort of Friday and Saturdays as well. So 3 out of 7 days he's with us. So yeah, he's a good kid. He's a good kid.
Oh my God, he's literally in the teenager years now.
Yeah, he is. Trying to get him in a shower, like it's just impossible, isn't it? And but he's just like me as a kid. You know what I mean? But I can't. I would, my sister says it like it's just like you in front of him, and he'll bring it up like I'm just like you, Dad. I'm like, no, you're nothing like me. But you know what kids are like. Do you know what I mean? They use any excuse not to get in a shower or not to eat and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So, but he's a good kid, really good kid.
So let's dive in. How did this all start with you and abusing drugs? And
It's a good question. Like when I was younger, obviously I'm 35 this year, so you're talking sort of 15 years ago. Drugs were never really about, but I always loved going out with the lads. You know what I mean? Going out of town, lads holidays. And I was always like a massive drinker. I was always a lad getting like the sambucas in on a Saturday, like 2 in the afternoon in the pub. When we'd just be going for meals and that. I was always like the crazy one, getting the jugs in, or buying champagne at a club that I didn't even like champagne. It tastes like piss. But I was always that sort of guy with like quite a big ego, and I'd try and buy like bottles of champagne and that. And then drugs are never really about. But to be fair, I never know where I crossed that line with taking loads of drugs. It sort of come on the scene. I started taking it, and before you know it, like I crossed that invisible line of, it become like every weekend, and then the weekends were becoming longer. And then during the week, and I was so blasé to it, I never wanted to admit that I was becoming a drug addict. Both my parents are addicts. My dad's an addict, and my mum's an alcoholic. And I was always like, I'm never going to become anything like them. I'm better than them. And then my concept of an addict would be somebody, on the street, like a heroin addict. If you say to anyone, what's an addict, they'll be like, well, it's, I'll guarantee 9 times out of 10 people would say that's probably someone who's homeless, or someone who's picking up a meth script or injecting themselves, or a chronic alcoholic. So in my mind, I just always thought I was better than them, never wanted to be anything like them. But slowly but surely, I just don't know where I crossed that invisible line, but so much happened between the point of taking drugs to the end of it, like traumatic stuff, which I don't know if that led me to abuse myself more, but I don't know, it just got out of hand quite quickly.
sorry, can I just go back to when you said the champagne bit? We once we went clubbing, we were like, how old were we? Like 18 or something. We didn't have a stable job at the time. We were just in uni and stuff. And once we went to this club, we bought like 3 bottles of whatever we were drinking. And then we decided to buy champagne because why not?
Yeah,
And then there was this bottle of champagne on the table. Like, who bought champagne? And we did. Why? I don't know. Just for bands.
I
Like,
know.
it's bad.
Yeah, yeah,
Things really escalate.
yeah. It does escalate. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It does. It does.
Do you think that your upbringing, with seeing your parents, live that lifestyle, do you think, I mean, I know you said that you wanted to not be like them basically, but do you think subconsciously you had consumed the normality of it, of being like this, mixed with your young years? Because let's face it, when we're all young and we can buy alcohol, why not?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, when I was a kid, my childhood was very like violent childhood. Do you know what I mean? Like, my mother was like a chronic alcoholic. She meant well, but she was sick. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of stuff happened when I was a kid, and I suppose I never really realized it until I got into recovery that maybe I was just, craving the love from her, craving the attention. And as I got older, like messing around in school, I got kicked out of school, and then I don't know if I was drinking just to bottle up the pain. Do you know what I mean? Just to try and fit in, because I was always like riddled with fear as a kid, and even as like going into my early adulthood, I was always like riddled with fear, and socially didn't really know how to interact with people. Do you know what I mean? So the only way I thought necessary was have a drink. When you're at a pub, you have a few drinks, you can just interact with anybody. And I suppose, yeah, I think my childhood did have a massive impact on me. Other stuff happened between the point of me being a teenager to an adult that maybe led me down that road. But I don't know, I can't, it's hard to question that, because I know people in recovery who have had the best upbringings. Do you know what I mean? Like, addiction doesn't have any type. Do you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter if you come from a really good upbringing or a really bad upbringing. I've met millionaires who are in recovery, and people have had gone to private schools who've had the best parents. So when I say to myself, yes, because of my childhood, I've got to look at the bigger picture and think, is it really because of my childhood? Do you know what I mean? So it's a tough one, really. It is a tough one.
But you deep down obviously think that could have played a major part on why you, like you said, it was like you were craving love, maybe calling that attention that wasn't given to you. So maybe you thought that was a way where you could kind of like be like, hello, this is happening to me. I'm becoming you guys.
Yeah, maybe. Like, I suppose the only really attention I really got was when I started, messing about, getting kicked out of school, scrapping. Do you know what I mean? Like getting nicked by the old bill. Maybe in the bigger picture, I like the attention of the teachers, of the old bill, of everyone, the social workers, because I wasn't getting it at home, So they sit me down in the room like, oh, is everything okay? And they're showing me this love and affection, these adults who I don't even know, which I'm not getting at home as a kid, And I think every kid needs that love and affection. Do you know what I mean? They need to be told that everything's going to be all right and we love you, and etc. But when I'm messing about and I'm just getting shouted at, like, do you know what I mean, and stuff like that, like there was no love and attention there. And yeah, I definitely feel like that was the beginning of it, because they say that addiction stems from fear from a young age. So they say something can happen as a kid, something fearful. I don't know, even like it's as small as, well, it's not small, but getting bullied and you get feared up, and then another episode, and the way you drink and use is you bottle all that stuff down inside you. Do you know what I mean? You don't even realize it, but that's the reason why we drink and use.
I guess it's the same as when you find teenagers self-harming because they find release of pain in doing so.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess it's kind of the same.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%. I think that might be the case of, kids who eat a lot as well. Do you know what I mean? And kids that are overweight and they want to eat a lot to make themselves feel better are the same as like kids that self-harm. I think that all does come down to, I think that is in the same line as addiction, most definitely, 100%.
At what point did you know that something was wrong? And what did you do when you felt like, okay, there's something happening here?
It's funny you say that, yeah. Like this might sound a bit mad. I remember I was about 28. And I'd just split up with my ex-girlfriend. I was living at my cousin's house at the time. And she had a really, like, it was a lovely house, but I lived in a really small room. And I was just living on this really small, thin mattress. It was almost like a mattress protector for like a single bed in the corner. And I was living out of one plastic bag And still then I thought, you know, everything's all right. It's like the delusion of the mind when you're stuck in addiction, you know, you think everything's all right. And I was using heavily, you know, probably about 3 or 4 days a week, big benders. I was sort of had like a labouring job. I wasn't really bringing in a lot of money. I remember one night her boyfriend stayed around, and the next morning, I sort of walked out the room, and he just said to me, he goes, Carl, have you got a spare pair of socks? Like, I know it sounds a bit mad, yeah, because have you got a spare pair of socks? And I was living out just one bin bag at a time. And I remember thinking in my head, I haven't even got a spare pair of socks, you know, at 28. And I was in the room brushing my teeth, and I can hear him rustling through this bag for ages, trying to find this. And I know it sounds weird, but I had this huge feeling of dread, like I'm a 28-year-old man, have you got a spare pair of socks? And that's when it started hitting me really, because I never had these things. Like, a pair of socks is so small, but at that time in my life, when he asked me for it, I felt so embarrassed as a 28-year-old man. And then like other things started happening, like my cousin kicked me out, and then I lived in a caravan. And it was just a shithole. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't even brushing my teeth. I wasn't really showering. And I suppose then, and when I was going to my mum's like every other day for food, I'd walk up to my mum's. It's about an hour walk, and I'd walk back in the rain. And by the time I was 29, you know, I had a son. All my friends have sort of like washed their hands of me. You know, my girlfriend at the time of 6 years, like she walked away, rightly so. I owed so much money out, and I just remember just walking back to the caravan and just thinking, like, I think that's when my rock bottom really started. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's when it really got dark for me. Like, you know, 29-year-olds, I had like a 5, 6-year-old son, and I just had nothing going for myself whatsoever. And it was the most, you know, most people nowadays at like 29 are quite settled down. Do you know what I mean? They're quite settled down and grown up. But at that point, I just felt this dread just hit me, and I literally, it was horrendous. I couldn't see a way out. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, how has my life got to this point? 29-year-old man, I've lost everything. Lost my driving license, lost my jobs, got loads of debt, no friends, no girlfriend, living in a caravan, walking to my mum's back in the day for foods. That's when it started hitting me that I thought, you know what, like, I don't even know what I'm going to do here. But I think that's the point where I got to, where I thought, like, you know, where's my life going? Do you know what I mean? And that was like a proper deep feeling. I still think about that to this day. You know, sometimes it hits me when I sit here just like reflecting where my life is today compared to where it was, you know, 5, 6 years ago. It is a bit of a bit of a mad feeling, because I never thought I never even dreamed of having a life I've got today. Do you know what I mean? I never even dreamed about it, and the fact that I've come out of it. But I think that's when the penny dropped. It was around about that sort of time. I was about 29, and it dropped, and thought, like, you know. But I had so many other problems going on in my life, like the debt, the drugs, no job, no friends. It was just so overwhelming. I just didn't even know where to go. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just horrendous, really. So I think that's about the time when I thought that, yeah, this is getting a bit mad.
You know, previous to this, did you have other days when you actually felt like, I need to stop doing this? Like, what is it I'm doing? Or did you just have to hit rock bottom to feel this way?
Yeah, they do say that. They do say you've got to hit rock bottom you know, to want to stop. But it's like with cocaine, it affects your dopamine in your brain. And your dopamine is obviously something that makes you feel really good when you're excited, you're buzzing. Because I was using so much cocaine at the time, when I was high, I was so high, like off my face. And it wasn't like using just for a couple of hours. I'd use right till like through the night until the sun was coming up. You know, then the next day I just feel like, oh, it's just such a horrendous feeling. I'm lying in bed, you know, and the birds are tweeting, and my heart is just, it's beating so hard, the bed is shaking. Do you know what I mean? And then I just feel sorry for myself all day, and then I'd want to kill myself, but I could never bring myself to do it. I'd plan it. Like the amount of times I'd text people on my phone saying, "That's it, I'm done. I'm gonna top myself." You know, I know I was never gonna do it. You know, and it got to the point I did it so much, people just stopped even texting back. You know, that's how mad it got. Do you know what I mean? And then I just never, always wanted to stop, but I didn't want to stop because it's the only thing that was making me feel good at the time. In a weird way, do you know what I mean? Just sat there sober 5, 6 days a week, just doing nothing with my life, with no friends. You know, the only rational thing that I thought at the time was just get a bit of gear and just sniff my brains out and just feel a bit high. Do you know what I mean? Like try and take myself away from what I'm doing it like, because when you're high, you just forget about everything. Do you know what I mean? Because you're so stuck in that rut. And cocaine at the time was the only thing, even though it was the worst thing for me, that made me feel better at the time. That I thought, you know, and
And that's the vicious cycle, because
that
as
is the
soon as you
vicious.
start sobering up, you start feeling like shit, and you start thinking, what why am I here?
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like this. I'm lonely and this and that. And then you think, hold on, if I'm high, then I'm not going to feel like this. And then it's just a vicious cycle.
It is, yeah, exactly. And I see that all the time with people nowadays, you know, and it breaks my heart because I've got so many people, good people that, you know, that I know really, really well, and they're going through the same thing that I went through, you know, and they're high and they're speaking to me when they're high, and I'm like, listen, speak to me tomorrow. Here's my number, give me a shout when you've sobered up and we can have a chat. And I never hear from them. And it's so sad, you know what I mean? Because I just see them, I see their life just, you know, ruining them. And I had the warning signs from my dad telling me you're going to lose everything if you carry on. And I thought he's just talking shit, you know, and I lost it all. You know, I lost everything. And I see it happening in today's society. And it's so sad because, like I said in one of my videos before, it's become socially acceptable now to do cocaine. You know, everyone's doing it. People you don't even expect to be doing it are doing it. You know, you go in the toilets and everyone's just there doing it. And that's the sad thing. And it just literally ruins lives, man. It literally ruins lives, relationships.
Society has accepted it so much that you will introduce yourself. And if you say you don't use, people look at you like, oh, shut
Yeah.
up. You're
Yeah,
telling me
they
you don't
do.
take anything. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they do. They do. They do it to me all the time. Like if I'm out drinking, whatever, they're like, what, you don't drink? I'm like, nah. And like, well, why don't you drink? And I'm like, oh, I just don't. Sometimes I go into it, but I'm like, you know, sometimes I can't be bothered. And then like, you know, what, are you in recovery? What's recovery? And I'm like, oh man, yeah, I just don't drink. Yeah, but why don't you drink? I'm like, oh, you know, I just don't. Oh, and then they start asking me like mad questions, but I just want to enjoy my night. Do you know what I mean? And in the end, like I just have to just duck out and go home early because they're all just off their nut and no fault of their own. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just there to hear that shit because I know what it's like when someone's off their nut, they're just talking complete bollocks to you all night. And you know, I know they're only drunk, but it's like being the only sober person at a party. It's never that much fun, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Touching on your first son, did you use whilst you had him?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I used a lot with him. You know, I got to the point where I was really heavily using at the time, and I'd buy in bulk. So I'd always have a lot of it around me. And you know, he was only young, and he just, as much as I love my son at the time, I'd use when I even in the daytime with him. Do you know what I mean? Take him over the park, I'll be using with him, and that's the thing. Like the most shocking thing about it, because I was there with him. You know, because I was there, and I put a film on for him or put a pizza in the oven. You know, I'm upstairs using gear. In my mind, I'm all right. I'm looking after the kids. He's eating, he's watching TV. He's cool, you know. Then I take him over the park. But that's the thing, like it just grips hold of you and you just don't even know like what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? That's ridiculous, like using with him and stuff like that, you know, like he doesn't know the extent of it. He knows I don't drink or take drugs. It's quite kids are a lot smarter than what we think. Do you know what I mean? As you know, as parents, kids clock onto things a lot quicker and they're very smart. So he knows I don't drink and stuff like that. But you know, as he gets older, I'll be sitting down and having these conversations with him and telling him, you know, the effects of drugs and what I was like. And, you know, we've got a really strong relationship, me and him. And I had that guilt for a long time. Do you know what I mean? That I used to use around him and I'd step over him to get gear. And, you know, my drugs always come first before my kids. Always when I was an active addiction. And that is the sad reality of it. And that's why with my videos, I'm so honest because people shy away from that sort of stuff. And people say like, you know what social media is like. You guys have got a really honest, you know, page and account. You're really honest about motherhood and stuff like that, and people wash stuff down, and they give these fake accounts of life. But this is just reality. This is what life is like today, and it's getting worse. You know, and I'm not ashamed to say this sort of stuff. You know, I mean, I've made amends with my past, and me and my little boy have a amazing relationship today, and he knows how much I love him. I'll always be there for him. My kids always come first, but when I was an active addiction, the only thing that comes first is the drugs, and that's that. Do you know what I mean? And when you're balls deep in that, and you know you're stuck in that cycle of life, and you're chasing that money to get high, the sad reality is anything else is just irrelevant apart from you just getting high. Do you know what I mean? Your kids, your missus, your parents, And that is the truth about it. Do you know what I mean? At the time, I just loved drugs more.
Do you feel like drugs stole a big part of you being a dad to him? Because obviously, as
Yeah.
you say, you were there, but mentally you wasn't because you were on drugs.
Yeah.
Like putting a pizza and a film on for him isn't really spending the time that
100%.
he needs.
Yeah, definitely. Nah, honestly, like, yeah, that took a massive, you know, the most important years, I think the most important years of childhood are when they're really young. Do you know what I mean? When they're learning every day. Because they get to that point when they're a teenager and it sort of, you know, it sort of stops. Do you know what I mean? There's everything they learn is sort of outside of the house, at school with their friends, and they're growing. Do you know what I mean? And they're learning about, you know, social stuff. And there's only so much as a parent we can teach our kids. So yeah, that took a massive, that robbed my son of his father for years, you know, for a good. There was a few years where I didn't use, maybe till he's about 3, you know, and then like just blast myself to bits from at the age of like maybe 2.5, 3, right through to, you know, he was 8, you know, and just, yeah, when he was 8. So that's like the most important years, 3 to 8. They change massively, you know. They're like, they get out of nappies, you know what I mean? They become like these little people with their little characters and personalities. And I wasn't present for none of that. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't there for none of that. And I think maybe as the years went on, as he was getting older, and his mum would tell me these things like, you know, you're a shit dad, you were never there, you care about drugs more. You know, I didn't want to believe that at the time. I wanted to believe that I was the best parent ever because my parents were never there for me. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, that drugs and alcohol robbed my little boy of a father for years. And that's something I'll have to live with for the rest of my life, you know, and hopefully I can just have an honest conversation with him when he's older, you know, and not make the mistake with my daughter. But that's something that maybe he's forgiven me, I don't know, you know, but one day I'm sure we can have an honest conversation and we can sit down and we can talk about it.
I think it's important that now you're mending those bridges again, and that he can understand that we are all humans and we all make mistakes. Yeah, you know, I fucked up, but at the end of the day, like, what the present moment that we're living and everything you're giving to both your children now is what matters. Do you think that played a major part in obviously your family splitting up?
When me and his mum, we weren't really together for long, and she sort of fell pregnant, and we decided that, you know, she wanted to keep it. But at that time, I went to jail a couple of times. Do you know what I mean? I was sort of right in that cycle of going out and I was just a proper lad.
It was very like settle-ish.
It was never settled-ish. I remember my sister going mad at me. Like, my sister's a couple of years younger than me, but she's always had her head on her shoulders, and she's very independent, and she's wicked. And I remember her going mental at me, going, "What the fuck do you mean she's pregnant? You can't even look after yourself." And I was thinking, who are you talking to like that? Like, do you know what I mean? I'm a man. I couldn't take care of myself, and I'm like 21. Do you know what I mean? I didn't even have a stable job at the time. Still living at home with my mum. Do you know what I mean? And I see it now. I see it so clear. Like, it's just mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, I definitely do things differently if I can, but you can't live in the past. You just have to. Do you know what I mean? You just have to keep going.
Can't dwell on it. Have you ever watched Beautiful Boy?
No, I haven't actually.
Recommend 10 out of 10. It's about this boy. Like you said, he had everything that anyone wanted, right? He had a good life, good family. He was good. And he decided to start, I think he started off with weed, and then it escalated, and the ending point to him was heroin, right? And when you watch this film, you can tell how much, sorry, 1 second. My dog starts doing this madness and he's so loud. You can see how much love he had around him, right? And you question yourself as to where did we go wrong as parents? Why, you know? And it's something that I always talk to my partner about when we think about, you know, the future of our son, is that it doesn't matter. Stitch. Sorry.
That's
it
all
doesn't
right.
matter how much, you know, how many morals, values, all of this that you input into this person. At the end of the day, this child grows up to be their own independent self. Because as teenagers, yes, we know that what we're doing is wrong, and we think, oh, my parents will never find out. So at the point that you actually start to use, or whatever it is you're doing, whether it's crime, drugs, you have a decision to make, and you know. Anyways, this kid went down the wrong route. His family consistently said, every single time, day in and out, we're like, you need to stop, we're supporting you, until one day they gave up on him. They were like, you keep coming in, stealing and leaving, and we don't even get a hello. And I think that for the most part, in a situation like this, it's the support you have around you is pretty much what's going to get you out. Or correct me if I'm wrong.
It is important to have a support network around you, but at the same time, it's tough. It's tough for the parents. Like, imagine if your partner was a drug addict right now. No matter how much love you show your partner and how much you're there for them, unless they're willing to say, listen, I've got a problem, I need help, and they need to accept it, because otherwise you're going to be bashing your head against the wall. Do you know what I mean? That's what's cost me past relationships and friendships, because like they were trying to help me and be there for me, but because I never wanted to admit it, or I'd just be lying to them, like, yeah, I haven't used, I'm free, blah, blah, blah. I remember once when I was with my ex-partner, we had this date night with this other couple hooked up for the Friday night. So they come round, we're just going to get some foods and watch a film. And I remember I was using that day. So I was using all day. And then at night time, they come, and I wasn't even hungry because I was just off my nut. And I remember going upstairs every half an hour and sniffing gear and coming back downstairs. I remember at one point I come down and we all sat there watching the film, and I just got like this massive nosebleed out of nowhere. And I was like just proper wired. And then she must have felt so embarrassed, you know what I mean, at the time. And I remember saying, like, why can't you give up? Why can't you stop? And my wife as well at the time, like, just the amount of shit I put her through. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was proper trying to support me, like, had my bank card, and she's really, really supportive. And I was just, don't you love me? Like, of course I love you. Like, I love you more than anything in the world. Why can't you stop taking cocaine and drinking then? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to stop. And that's like the sad reality. Like, you can see the pain in their face, and I see it, and I speak to parents and that about it all the time, and siblings and cousins. How do I help him? I'm like, listen, the best way to help him is just take a step back until they're ready to give up, because otherwise you're going to ruin your own life. In the process, it might be years. It might be years until they admit it, and you're going to spend the next 3-4 years bailing them out, getting resentful, causing problems in your own relationship, your own life, affecting you mentally, for someone who's not even ready to give up the drink and drugs. It doesn't mean you don't love them any less. Do you know what I mean? It just means that, you're going to be there for them when they're ready to say, listen, I'm done with this shit, man. I need your help. You're going to say, listen, I'm here for you. Do you know what I mean? But until that day comes, you've got to live your life, man. You've got to be there. And
how did you feel when you knew that all your friends turned their back on you?
Do you know what? Like, it's crazy, because I was always one of the lads, and there's a big group of lads. I always had so many friends. I'm from quite a small town previously, and I always like to think I was quite a likable guy years ago, and I had loads of friends around me, and I could turn to them for anything. And when you know that no one believes, because I was a compulsive liar, do you know what I mean? At the time, I'd lie about anything to anyone to get anything. Do you know what I mean? So at the time, when I knew I just had like no friends left, or they did have love for me, but it was like they kept me at arm's length. You know what I mean? Like, they just knew that I was just a bullshitter, etc. And yeah, it's the most heartbreaking thing ever. Like, being at that age and knowing you've got no friends you can turn to, you just feel so alone. It's like, it's horrendous. Like, it's horrible, man. Like, and I know people suffer with that nowadays, and it's just it's a mad feeling, a mad feeling.
It's crazy to have to watch someone that you love ruin their life, to the extent that, like you said, like, nothing you do or say will change the person until they're ready to change. And I guess you just have to stay and just wait until they're ready.
With my mother, my sister flew back from Australia. My mother went to hospital a couple of years ago, and she was unwell. My sister flew back from Australia. She lived in London, and she moved in with my mum to try and help her, for a couple of months. She quit a job, she quit everything, do you know what I mean, to move in with my mum to really try and support her. And yeah, she tried everything, taking her to AA meetings a lot. My mum just wouldn't give up the drink. you know, I think that was definitely hard for my sister at the time. Do you know what I mean? Because she just wanted to help her, and she gave it everything she got. Do you know what I mean? She really tried to support her, and she sort of to get it thrown back in her face. But you know, my mum was sick, and I think that was just a prime example. I see it all the time, you know, people trying to help others, and you do feel like you're getting it thrown back in your face. But addiction is an illness, you know. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean they love you any less or they don't love you. They're just stuck in that cycle, and they're sick people. Do you know what I mean? They don't know what they want. All they want to do is get high or drink or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I'd never take it personal to anybody who's trying to help someone with addiction. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's your kid or your sibling or whatever. Because I know firsthand what it's like. Like, I loved everyone around me, but I wasn't ready to give up drinking drugs. You
Let's put a scenario, right? And like, hopefully this never happens. But
Okay.
say like your son or your daughter started, and you started seeing signs that they were, you know, maybe drinking a lot or you know, abusing drugs. How would you cope in that situation, or how would you support them? Because obviously you stepping back, that's not really an option because they're just starting, right? So what kind of like guidance would you give them? There's obviously your personal experience.
Yeah.
You know, kids, like sometimes they're just like, they think we haven't lived and we haven't gone through.
Yeah.
I hate this scenario. I hate it.
We're not cool anymore. No.
Yeah, no.
That's like my worst nightmare. Do you know what I mean? That is like my worst nightmare, because I see it in my son already. Like, kids they have such addictive traits, don't they? Do you know what I mean? With certain things, they get like hooked on everything. Like, I mean, look at the gaming world for nowadays. For like kids, so especially boys, they're like glued to it. Do you know what I mean? And you know, and I think that's just something that that would drive me mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think about it nowadays. If they're like, "Raw, my little boy,
Mama's code.
I'm 13 now. Give it a couple of years. That's when you start smoking at school, and you think you're the cool lad." Do you know what I mean? I think I'd just sit him down, explain to him, you know, what it is, and you know why he feels he needs to do this, and what is his motive. You know what I mean? I wouldn't go mad at him, because I feel like, you know, back in the day, your mum would just take you and give you a beating, wouldn't she? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, years ago. But I suppose today's society, I would just sit him down and talk to him about it and find out why he wants to test this out. What's his motive behind it? What's he looking for? You know, then I'll just explain. I'll explain the dangers of drugs to him. You know, even if I wasn't an addict and this come up, I'd really try and talk to him at why he wants to do this and what he's trying to get out of it. You know, there's always a motive, because let's be real, like when you've got 100 students in a year, you know, at school, there's only 10 of them that are the cool lads who end up smoking. But you know, 80% of kids, they won't try that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? They might have a little drink at the weekend or whatever, but then they're quite good kids. So I'd always try and find out what his motive is and why he's doing it. But I think kids will be kids, you know. I think this is something that if you try and mollycoddle them and try and tie them up, they're going to be at house parties. They're going to smoke a little bit of weed maybe and have a whitey and throw up. Do you know what I mean? I think that's all part of growing up, and that is the reality of it. Do you know what I mean? Like weed now, even like down to weed, that's just everywhere. You know, everyone smokes it.
Everything is so accessible right now as well.
It is. Yeah, that's the
It's
thing.
everywhere. Like, you can't block your kids from this.
You can't. That's
You
the
have
thing.
to
You can't.
educate them on it more than probably our parents did and our generations.
Definitely.
Because before, you'd walk down the road, smell marijuana, and people like your parents would be like, "Oh my god, fuff, it stinks," and you'd think like, "Okay," but now you're like, "Oh, that shit smells good."
yeah. Let's follow him. Where's he going? Yeah. I'm still like it nowadays. I still smell it. I'm like, oh, right, that smells good. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, man. I don't think there's any harm in kids. I think if you know your kids and they've got their head on their shoulders, because you know, kids nowadays at young age, they know what they want. Do you know what I mean? They know what they want to do when they hit like 15, 16, and they're like ready to study and get their nut down. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I don't think there's anything wrong with kids testing stuff out as long as it's safe. I mean, like, they're gonna go to Amsterdam when they're young 20s. You know what I mean? That's the place to go. They're gonna go over there and party. They're gonna go to Ibiza, and you just never know. You can't they've got to live their lives and make their own mistakes. Huh?
This is making me feel sick.
It's the truth, though.
Because like you say, like we both have boys, and it's like obviously boys that are more. It's probably the estimate around boys and that is higher than, you know, girls.
Nah, definitely. Yeah, boys will be boys. You know, boys are just lads, aren't they? Boys are a nightmare. Even to raise them, I feel like boys are harder than girls. You know what I mean? I think girls have like the tantrums when they're younger, but boys are like, boys, they get like teenagers and they're just like miserable and they're just like, oh, do you know what I mean? And like, I'm always gripping up my little man, like, come
We're
here.
not there yet. Please don't kill it for us.
No, but you're like,
Testosterone.
they're
In
putting
it,
you
like,
off, innit?
can you just talk about your little
Someone
girl,
MC or
please?
something.
Just stay to your little girl. Don't bring your boy in.
So have you both just got boys, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay. Nah, it's good to know what, like, it's mad because every boy's different and like it's just I think boys will just be boys, you know what I mean? I think that's always going to be the way, that's always going to be the case. But I feel like boys nowadays, younger lads, they do feel like they've got their head on their shoulders more. Like I look at my little boy and it's like, nah, I'm never going to drink, I'm never going to smoke, and he has got a lot of respect for me. Like, you know, I've drilled that down to him, and I try and show him that he's got to have the highest level of respect, the way he talks to people, his manners towards people. And I think if you introduce that to your boys at a young age, how to be respectable, you know, go to, you know, shower, brush your teeth, come home at a decent time. And I think as long as they respect you as parents and they don't rebel, they might rebel now and then, I think you're going to be fine, man. I wouldn't worry about it too much. You know what I mean? I think as long as you just explain the dangers of drugs and alcohol, you've got to let them their lives. You've got to let them get drunk and come home and be sick. And do you know what I mean? They've got to be like, oh, I'm never doing that again. Like, yeah, you know, you're not. Do you know what I mean? You almost want them to go to a house party and come back and be sick, just to say no about it is. Do you know what I'm saying? And you know, you can't rob kids of their childhood, and they're going to do that sort of stuff. Otherwise, if you mollycoddle them, they're going to get older for like, well, my childhood was, you know, my teenagers was shit. You know, I had to be home at 7 every day, and my mum was well strict. And if anything, they're going to rebel even worse. You know what I mean? As they get older, but I wouldn't worry too much.
Well, it's like I say, like I feel like strict parents create liars, because when you have a strict parent, you always have to lie. Like I remember my parents were strict, but they weren't very strict. But even their level of strictness, like I had to be home say 9, and if I was running late, I'd be like, oh, it's just, you know, I would have had like the dumbest scenarios in my head. I'd be like, oh no, the bus, it broke down.
Yeah.
And you kind of become a compulsive liar.
Yeah.
And it obviously that escalates, because you get away with the first lie, and then you start, oh, you know, I'm gonna go sleep over. I remember once I was like, I'm gonna sleep over at my cousin's house, and my mum, she wasn't stupid. She called my auntie, and my auntie was like, yeah, no, everyone's not here. And I was like, in
That is stupid, Erica. Your whole ass cousin, like your auntie or uncle, like, not gonna.
You know when it's one of them ones that you think, nah, my mum's not gonna call. No, my mum called, and I was in Trocadero, and you know when you're like, hello?
Yeah.
She's like, pass the phone to your auntie, and I was like, she's in the toilet.
Yeah.
No, it's just, but I feel like it's that, like you feel like you need to lie because you know you're not going to be given the chance to go out. And you know, I was never allowed to go to house parties. I was never allowed to do none of that, because my dad would always, like, I would insinuate, I'll be like, oh, I've got a house party today with a friend, and my dad would be like, okay. My dad was so petty.
Nice for them.
Go, have a bath, get dressed like a dad, right. And he'll be like, okay, I'm ready. And I'll be like, ready for what? I'll be like, to party? I'll be like, no. And he'll be like, yeah. I'm like, it's a kid's party, Dad. And he'll be like, yeah, but surely one of their mums going to be there. I can party with the mom. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, fuck off, Dad. You're not coming.
Honestly, just slam my door. So I felt like, obviously, they did kind of let go afterwards. But I did, like, from experience, I do feel like, you know, if you're very strict, you know, you kind of inflict fear, like, oh my God, if you drink, this is going to happen. Kids are going to want to do it more. The more you tell a person not to do something, the more they're going to want to do it.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and there's no such thing as a perfect parent, do you know what I mean? And the best parent in the world, as much as people try, you know, God bless them, do you know what I mean? And, you know, this is no fault of anyone's, but we all want to be the amazing parent who does the best for their kids. And at the end of the day, like, you've just got to let the kid live their lives and just be there for them. Do you know what I mean? And don't put too much pressure on kids, because I feel like there's so much pressure on kids nowadays to do well. You have to do well at school. You have to do this, you know, when you get older, blah, 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 blah. And there's so much pressure on them to do well in life, but it doesn't work, man. Do you know what I mean? No, they don't. Yeah, I'm going to work really hard, Dad. Yeah,
but do you know what? It's also a thing about having that balance, because you want your child to go out there and be clever and to know what they're looking out for.
Yeah.
I remember once going out. The one time my mom said, yeah, you can go out. It's fine, go. Just be home at 2. My drinks got spiked that day because
Mm,
I thought I can leave my drink at the bar and just dance, and I'm dancing right in front of my drink. Then nothing is going to happen, right? But these people that go around doing these things, they're
yeah,
experts at this.
yeah, they are. Yeah,
That day, I spent about 10 minutes in that club. I got home, like my friends literally had to drag me. I had no control of my eyeballs.
that's
My
horrendous.
mom gave me the biggest lecture that honestly,
Yeah.
when I close my eyes, I can still hear it. And but from since that experience, I understood what dangers, and you're naive as a teenager as well, and you think, oh, I'm with
Mm,
my friends, that could never be me. So as well, if you're so strict, how will they ever know how to stand up for themselves or know what they're looking at, or the dangers and everything?
it does scare me. Like with my daughter, like I look at her and like you do you love them the same, but you love them differently because like because she's a girl. I like picture it in my head, like I'm thinking I don't even know. I just know that I'm gonna be, and I try not to. Like with my wife, I say it like I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to let her out. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm gonna be that really like not strict dad, but it's just like you say, there's men out there that are just complete and utter predators. They don't give a shit. Do you know what I mean? They'll do anything they'll drop something in your drink. They just want to get you home. And yeah, it's dangerous out there. It is dangerous. That does scare me. That does scare me as a father. Like I'd just rain Armageddon on somebody if they, do you know what I mean? If something happened to my daughter, and same with my son, do you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't even be able to hold back.
What's your biggest fear? Do you fear of relapse? So like, does that ever come to your mind? Like the thought of, oh my God, what if I just get into it again and then ruin what you have?
It's a good question.
Or think, oh, one time, like it's fine, like
Yeah, like
nothing's gonna
like you
happen.
say, like cocaine gives you that thing of
Instantly.
release, like you feel good. So maybe you have like a bad month or week and
Yeah.
you think just one time, but then that's your relapse for you. And then
Yeah,
that
of course.
once becomes twice and three times and stuff.
Yeah. That's dangerous, man. Like, like if I relapse, if I was to go out there and have a drink and use, I don't think I'll be able to get back into recovery. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like I see it happen all the time, and people that relapse after like, I've met a guy who relapsed after 15 years before, and coming back into recovery, 15 years sobriety and then picking up a drink and drug. And for me, I've always got to keep, spiritually fit and well. Do you know what I'm saying? But my biggest fear is probably not drinking, it's probably like failure. Do you know what I mean? Like the biggest thing, like I've come so far over the last sort of 4 years, and in the back of my mind, I almost feel like, do I deserve this life? Do you know what I mean? Like a mortgage, a wife, 2 kids, a great career, really a massive group of really good friends around me. And I almost feel like it's too good to be true. Do you know what I mean? The life I'm living now, from a man living in a caravan with fuck all, with nothing, to having this like life that in some ways some boys and some lads could only really dream of. Do you know what I mean? At a young age, you know what I mean? Because today it's hard to get them sort of things. You know what I mean? But I do think about drinking and stuff like that. It's just like passing thoughts. You know what I mean? Like when I'm on holiday, I might see a geezer what passing with a beer in his hand. I feel like, right, that'd be good. You know what I mean? Just have a beer right now on holiday. Because I said it right. When you go on holiday, you just want to like sit there and just drink all day. Do you know what I mean? By the pool, all inclusive. You can get doled up and go out at night and just, do you know what I mean? Like, and go down to the entertainment. And sometimes I feel like, right, it'd be good to have a drink. Do you know what I mean? But for me, I know I'll end up right back where I was. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I've just come too far, and I wouldn't.
I feel like
Yeah.
maybe you clearly appreciate a lot what you've got now, because we've got a friend of ours that there's been times where we're like, do you feel like that one drink, just a small drink would affect you? And he's come such a long way that
Mm,
he's like, why would I want to be back where I was and be that person? And obviously
mm,
for us, because we all experience his bad days in one way or the other. So, but
yeah.
but at the same time, we kind of think like, oh, but it's just one drink. Like you've got self-control. But
Mm.
where you've come so far and you've got so much and you appreciate where you're at now, it's kind of like it's not really worth it, is it?
Nah, that's it. It's not really worth it. Like, and what's in my mind now, like, obviously as an addict, I feel like what's the point in just having one drink? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to gain anything from that. Even like sitting there, and I know like you know, like cocaine nowadays, a lot of females have like not like being sexist and friendly, have like a bottle of wine, or you know, sometimes four out of 7 nights. Do you know what I mean? Or just with their dinner, or you know, lads will have like just a few beers at night time. I always feel like, what's the point in that? What are we gaining from just sitting there in front of the TV, sinking 4 beers, or drinking a whole bottle of wine? You know, what is the benefit of that? There's no benefit to that. Do you know what I mean? And I always thought to myself like, and I've only noticed that as I you know, coming into sobriety. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'll have a few beers tonight. I'm just gonna sit here and watch EastEnders and sink 3 beers or 4 beers. I'm gonna have a bottle of wine with my dinner. You know, I don't know why. I'm just gonna have a bottle of wine anyways. Do you know what I mean? And when people are like, what, you can't drink, just have one. But what's the point? I don't want to have a beer. Do you know what I mean? There's no benefit to me. That's not even gonna get me drunk anyways. You know, and if I do, like when I want to drink, I want to get off my nut. Do you know what I mean? I want to go out and party, man. I want to just, you know, but I just have so much regret. You know, like when you wake up in the morning, you're hanging like that, and you feel like, wow, that was a mad night. And you sort of open your eyes and like, you know, it's 10 o'clock and you just fucking hanging. Then you're like, oh man, and then you get like little flashbacks, like, oh man, I was talking shit to that. Oh man, you really regret it, like, no, I was talking shit. Oh, do you remember when you was dancing? Like, oh, I remember that. Who was that guy at the bar who's
That's
talking
my
to? Like,
partner in the mornings after getting drunk. He is that guy you're talking about.
Yeah,
That
do you know
he's
what I
like, oh
mean?
yeah, I love you, and everyone's like, okay, we know.
Yeah, that's it.
Chill
Like
out.
talking shit to the bouncers, like, oh, honestly, if you get any problems tonight, honestly, like, you know, I'm there, like, you know, I want to be a bouncer. Do you know what I mean? Like last weekend, there was 4 geezers. Honestly, they shut themselves, mate. And you're just talking bollocks, you know, and then you're buying drinks, and you're like, yeah, I'll pay for your drink, mate. You don't even got, do you know what I mean? You're skint, and you're buying drinks. You know what I mean? It's like second week into the month. Your missus is on your case because you're already skint. You're buying drinks at the bar, and you just wake up with a fucking stinking hangover. You've lost your phone. You're like that. Oh my god. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's never worth it. Like, it's never worth it. You just like, and your whole day or the next 3 days you're just wasted. Do you know what I'm saying?
You know, once he came home and he went to Sky Garden after work drinks. He works like in the city near him.
Right.
And the next day he was like, oh yeah, like, oh baby, you know what I did? I'm like, oh my god, what did you do? He's like, yeah, so we went to the bar, and I was like, don't worry guys, I'll get the first round. He ordered shots for I think it was like 4 of them, and he was like, I paid almost £100. Like,
what?
after that I was like, no, I'm going home. And I was like, that's what happens for being that drunk person that you're like, yeah, everyone, let's go for shots, but never again.
That. Yeah. Oh,
and I'm like, did you not know where you were? Like, forget the name, but if you're in a rooftop bar, you should expect to be paying down some money. Like,
yeah, you know that. It's almost
like
as a man though, like, it's almost like an ego thing as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get the bar, like, I've got the drinks, lads. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, what do you want? Yeah, I'll have a single vodka. Fuck it, man. I'm gonna get you a double. Do you know what I mean? Just mate want one. And then they're like, or like, if
I only want a single.
Yeah, don't worry, man. I've got you a double.
Have a double and a shot.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, do you do sambucas? Fuck it, let's get tequila as well. You got any tequila? Do you know what I mean? You're at the bar and they end up buying, you know, this female and her 3 friends a drink. Come over here for shots. Come over. You don't even know who they are. They're like, yeah, fucking sweet, mate. We're in there. Do you know what I mean? And then they're coming back again when at the bar. Oh, you're back again. How's your night? Do you want another shot? And you end up spending like, you know, 100 quid. You feel like, where did that? You just have a shit night, man. You end up rolling over at 4 a.m. Like, do you know what I mean? And
does that not remind you of Camilo? On his birthday, he bought his card, went around the whole 2-floor club. Everyone's like, yeah, drinks. Like he's on the birthday boy.
Oh,
and he was screaming out his pin across the and like, he was literally, it was so drunk, like he was passing his card to anyone, and everyone was like, mate. Oh Ollie, I'll pay you back, and he's like, yeah, no worries, what's your pin? And he would just shout it out, and I was like, what is wrong with you?
He's lucky he didn't meet me, mate.
At the time, he's a few years older than us. So at the time, we were like all still in uni and stuff. And he was like,
so you were skin. You're like, yeah, get some drinks. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, he was the one working with a stable job. And we were like, yeah, give us your card. Never again. It was like, fuck you, lot.
They're the nights you just regret. Like, you do have some good nights. Like, do you know what? Like, I wouldn't even I wouldn't change anything that's happened. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, there's some mad things that's happened, but it's made me the person I am today. But my mate sent me a picture today, actually, funny enough. He goes, 10 years ago today, there's like me and 5 of my lads, and we was getting ready pre-drinks before we went out. And I remember that night, like, I had some wicked times, man. Do you know what I mean? Especially like going out of town and raving and going abroad and that. Do you know what I mean? And I met some amazing people. But yeah, like, I never regret that. I never regret that ever. Like,
Because you had good
hangovers.
times, no?
Hmm?
It's because you had a good time, so why would we
Did have a
regret
good
the
time,
good
man.
times?
No, I did. Yeah, I did have a good time. Yeah, but
How does your wife support you on a day-to-day basis now? This has a lot of impact on your mental health as well, and I'm sure obviously she's aware of everything. Does she, like, you know, does she keep you in check with when you're feeling a bit low, when you feel like, oh, that one drink or
no, definitely. Yeah, my wife, she's amazing, man. Like, she's very spiritual. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's got like an altar with like Buddhists and that around it, and crystals and
oh my god, did she have
affirmations.
crystals? I
Yeah,
love
she got.
her.
Honestly, I'll tell you something funny. The other day, so she goes, "Oh, I've got these crystals." Yeah, and I'm like, oh, "Okay, cool." So we're sitting in the living room the other day, and I'm sat on one couch, she's sat on the other. I was like, "Coming in," and we got to go to bed, and these crystals just like fell out of her bra. They like pinged on the floor, went ping, 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 and I was like looking around. I was thinking, I looked at her. I was like, "What was that?" And she was like pissing herself, like she went really red, and she was like, "Oh." She goes, "I got these crystals, they're like money crystals," and I was thinking, "But where were they?" Like. And she goes, "They was in my," and she couldn't get her words out. She's pissing herself because they were in my bra. You know, you're meant to put them in your bra. And I'm looking at her thinking, fucking lost the plot, man. And like, yeah, she has them like everywhere. Like, I jumped in bed and I sat on a big ass crystal. And yeah, she does like tarot readers and tarot cards. But yeah, she does fucking keeps me in check, man. Like, if I'm like messing about, she'll tell me straight. Do you know what I mean? If I'm like, and that's what I need. I can't have a body column. I come in like, oh, I've had a hard day at work. She goes, "I don't care, mate. I've had a Babel day. Do you know what I mean? You better." And I'm like, "Fucking, all right, cool." Do you know what I mean? And like, yeah, she definitely keeps me in check, and she's definitely like the glue that holds it together. Do you know what I mean? Like, and vice versa, really. You know, if she's having a bad day, I'll be there for her. But if it wasn't for her, you know, even though I got myself into recovery, I wouldn't even be half the man I am today. You know, and behind every man is a good woman and a strong woman, and I definitely believe that. Do you know what I mean?
We can't hear you, Moo.
I just said definitely. No, I was just thinking that when, you know, in your situation, it's kind of like we're walking side by side, like I've got your hands and you've got me as well. And, you know.
Nah, she's amazing, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we're very similar, me and my wife, very, very similar, like very similar characteristics and that and traits. And we're both sort of weird in our own way, do you know what I mean? But yeah, she's the nuts, man. Like, do you know what I mean? I couldn't be any luckier, to be fair. As much as she does my nutting, do you know what I mean? As much as we might bicker here and there and stuff like that, like, she's just an amazing mum and she supports me through everything. Do you know what I mean? She's always pushing me to do more. Do you know what I mean? And always pushing me to be the best version of myself. And I think that's so important. But at the same time, she knows she is not my happiness. You know what I mean? She knows I've got to be happy in myself and she's got to be happy. And then we bring our happiness together. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't expect her to make me happy, and I can't do the same for her. I can't just make her happy. She's got to find her own happiness within herself. And same for me. I've got to keep on top of my recovery. I've got to keep my resentments clear. I've got to be a good father, you know, and keep my conscience clear. And then we just can have a happy marriage. You know what I mean? But I can't expect her to make me happy. That doesn't come down to that, man. And I think that's why I was going wrong for a long time. Do you know what I mean? Why are you not showing me attention? Do you know what I mean? Why are you not being there for me? Blah 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 blah. And I've got to always ask myself these questions like, what's going on with me? You know, why am I feeling this way? What's happening? Have I got some resentments? Am I having a bad day at work? Do I need to talk to somebody in recovery about what's happening? Do you know what I'm saying?
Can I just touch on something about the stone, the crystals?
Yeah.
Because when you were talking about it, honestly, it's just literally like like Jess and our other friend, they're really into crystals. And like once that we were at my son's birthday party and like it was me and my other friend and they were just talking about it and talking about all these names. So my friend Steph was like, "Do you believe in that?" And I was like, "No, I don't really get it. I don't get the hot." But literally all they do is talk about crystals, and you go to their house, and like one of our friends, she has like a little thing that she just puts everything there. She's like, and this is my new crystal, and this is my other one. And then and then the other day she was like, oh my god, the full moon is out. We have to go out and charge our crystals. And I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, honestly.
Listen, you need the universe to take all the bad vibes. It's like my Palo Santo. I'm like forever smoking it around my guy, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's just take out the bad energy from you, because sometimes you do my head in." And he's like,
yeah.
All right, babe.
My wife is mad with crystals. Like, my babe had two in her hand last night. Like, she had a long pink one, and she's like, "Oh, that's a love crystal." And she had another one. She goes, "Oh, that's a money crystal." And then she got like these massive crystals as well. Like, but yeah, my shelf's full of them. Yeah, Kim's mad with that sort of stuff, like Reiki and
It might as well pay
meditation.
rent in your house.
You what? Sorry.
The crystals might as well pay rent in your house.
Honestly, they're everywhere. And she goes, "Honestly, babe, these are going to bring good vibes. You need to raise our vibrations." And when I say something to her, like, "Oh man," like, I said something to her yesterday. Like, I sat there and I was thinking, I was like, "Yeah," and I can't remember what we're talking about. And she goes, "Are you fearful about that?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And because you're studying like all like this, and she'll be looking at me and she goes, "So are you fearful?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, a little bit." She goes, "Well, how do you feel about that?" I'm like, she goes, "What do you do when you get fear?" I'm like, I'll just get rid of it. She goes, "No, no, no, no. When you get fear, you need to acknowledge it. Acknowledge the fear." And I'm thinking, and she sat there for a little crystal in her hand, looking at me, thinking like, like she's like my therapist. I'm like, "Babe, man, calm the fuck down." You know what I'm saying? I just want to chill out about our day today. And she goes, "No, no, 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 let's talk about this." I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this, babe." Do you know what I mean? And we'll get back upstairs like an hour later. She's like, "So about the fear thing earlier." I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it, babe." Do you know what I mean? It's 10 at night. I've had a long day. I just want to relax,
He's like, "Okay, just put this crystal under your pillow. It's fine."
Yeah, honestly. She's like that. She's like putting crystals everywhere. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And the babe's running around with crystals in her hand. I'm like, "Babe, where'd you get that crystal from?" She goes, "Oh, that's all right. It's a money crystal. It's going to bring us luck." I'm like, "You're talking shit, man." And then the next day we get like it's funny because like last week it happened. And she goes, "I got a money crystal." I'm like, "Oh, I don't think." She goes, I was like, "Oh, that's not going to bring us money, babe. What are you talking about?" And the next day we got a bill through the door and we was in credit like 1,500 quid. And she goes, "See, I told ya, it's the crystal." And she wouldn't stop talking about it for hours. She goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Honestly, like that never happened. It's definitely the crystal." I'm like, "Yes, babe, it's the crystal." Bless her, man. She's gone mad with that, but she means well. Do you know what I mean?
Bless the people with their crystals.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, Carl, with everything we've touched on, normally at the end of our episodes, we like to end with a golden tip.
Mhm.
Any advice, anything you want to share?
Do you know what? When you see people online and they're like, never give up, keep going strong, blah, 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 stay strong, anything could happen. And I used to be one of them people that be like, that's not even possible. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've had it given to you. And in the space of 4 years, my life is completely transformed. And the advice I can give to anyone is, if you want something, just get it, man. Just chase it. Don't let anybody tell you you're not good enough. Nobody, never let anybody tell you you're not good enough. Do you know what I mean? You've got to chase that, man. And anyone that's struggling with addiction, just keep strong. Honestly, just keep strong, because I've been there, and I know how heartbreaking it can be at the time where you're stuck in that deep, deep hole and you feel like you can't get out. But I swear to God, you can, man. The sky is the limit. Like, I've got so many goals that I know I'm gonna achieve in life. Do you know what I mean? And because the law of attraction is massive for me. Do you know what I mean? Just, I believe it's gonna happen, and I know it's gonna happen. So the best advice I can give, I don't think that was even any advice, was it? I was sort of just firing stuff out, but just keep strong, people. Yeah, just keep strong. You could do this, and if that don't work, get some crystals.
Oh my God, I love that. That's like the best golden tip we've
That's
heard
it,
on
innit?
this pod.
Your
some
wife is
crystals.
going to be so pleased with that.
She is, isn't she? Do you know what I mean?
Listen, if you go big places from here, she'll be like, "It was the crystals."
That's it. Yeah, it's been great. Do you know what I mean? You guys, I've been listening to your page, listening to some of the stuff you guys get up to, and I love an honest account. Do you know what I mean? I feel like this world needs more people like you to give an honest account of motherhood, what's going on, what's happening, because people do wash stuff down, especially on social media. They'll post stuff like, "Life is amazing, this is happening, blah, blah." And you just know that's bollocks. So you're thinking, they're giving people a false sense of hope. Do you know what I mean? Even though you're sharing the good stuff as well, but you're sharing the truth. Do you know what I mean behind it, which I think is amazing. So yeah,
And
I
you
can't
know what?
respect
At the
you
end
guys
of
enough.
the day, like, we have to embrace that. Like what you said today about the fact that you loved drugs more than your son at that time.
Yeah.
Just that it doesn't define who you are today or what you're
Definitely.
doing as a father. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
people, it's fine to accept your truth, but because that's not you anymore. And that's what
Definitely.
everyone needs, because everyone's in la la land and it's really
They
not
are.
that.
Yeah. No, they definitely aren't. I'll never hold back from being honest. I think. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we're not being honest, what are we being?
100%. I feel like sometimes sugarcoating everything doesn't really work. It just takes away that kind of reality of what people live. And you know, like sometimes I think that's like why we actually came up with the podcast, because sometimes we'll talk and I will be like, oh, this happened to me, and it should be like, oh my god, same. If I was sugarcoating like my life was perfect and this fairy tale, should probably be sitting on the other side like, oh my god, like something's wrong with my relationship, or something's wrong with my son, because she wouldn't think that something's actually going wrong in my relationship. So she,
No,
and you know,
definitely.
if I said to Jess, oh, you know, me and my husband never argue, she'd be like, I think we need to go couple therapy because we're always arguing. But
I know,
in relationships, you do, like, you can love each other, but you still have different personalities. You are going to butt heads.
Oh, Carl, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was great hearing you, and stay tuned for the Daddy Takeover. We will be having a dad taking over every month to speak about you men things and all the testosterone in there.
Wicked. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
You too.
Mama's Code out.
Mwah.
Truth is, I've got an addiction.
Mama's Code.
10 years from now, I'll be sitting on a beach in Spain. She'll be like, I told you them crystals, babe.